All right, friends. As prefaced, a palpable pairing on episode 59 of the Spicer Speaking podcast, talking golf around the world, talking golf right here in the desert proper. Enjoyed that visit with Adam Shupak. We segue to an equally engaging guest. He is the director of instruction at Desert Willow Golf Resort, on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy. He is my swing doctor, and as mentioned, he and his Desert Willow peers kind enough to give away a complimentary foursome on this week's episode. Welcome, Paul Bucy, back to the Spicer Speaking podcast. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Judd, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I want you to know from the outset that our work from last summer on my inverse loop continues
Yes.
to be part of the repertoire, and
Awesome.
continues to be part of the swing. I could probably use a little doctor checkup sometime this summer. I've gotten a little askew at times, but what we worked on has definitely worked for me.
That's great. Yeah, come on in, buddy, anytime.
I
It's slow
appreciate
right now, so I'd love to work with you and see where you're at.
This is right about the timeline that we did it last summer. I know that you guys were definitely pumping it out well into July last year. Certainly going to talk about the Palm Desert Golf Academy here in a moment, but let's start with this. Obviously, as mentioned, had a nice long talk with Adam Shupak about the Open Championship, and I got to say, Paul, that save for our Open, that the British Open is my second favorite major or golf tournament of any manner to watch during the year. Do you have a particular favorite that you enjoy watching the most?
I would say the Masters, I think, is probably my favorite. I just remember Jack winning in '85, I believe. It was
86.
86. And that was a huge tournament. I remember watching that as a kid with my dad. And I love the Masters. I love the golf course. But I love the Open Championship too. I mean, it's great. I haven't played over there yet, and that's on the bucket list for sure. I want to go and play those golf courses and experience St. Andrews. And I'm excited for this weekend. It's going to be awesome.
I think it is too, of course, taking place at the Old Course, the home of golf. I would say, Paul, that save for our lessons, I'm not just blowing you up because it really did help me a lot, changed a very specific part of my game. But right behind our lessons last summer, the second greatest or most important golf lesson that I've ever got was about 3 or 4 years ago. Played, I think, it might have been 8 days in a row in Southwest Ireland. And I walked away from that experience, much like I trust I would have on a golf trip to Scotland, having learned a lot about my game because it is such a different style of golf. And I realized that, you know what? I don't control my golf ball at all. Out here in the desert, there's a lot of courses where you can kind of blast it around out there, and it's an aerial game and you can get away with a lot. But I learned that especially with my iron play out there, I just needed to know where my ball was going. I needed more precision. I needed more accuracy, and I needed to learn more about ball flight. Have you ever had that conversation with folks that have gone overseas and played, or is that something you think about when you watch the Open Championship?
Yeah. So it's golf in the desert's a lot different than a lot of other parts of the world. It's pretty open off the tee. It's pretty forgiving. The lies generally, if you're playing at these, any of these nice, really fantastic courses in the desert, the lies are usually pretty good. The rough's typically not grown up very much, and there's not a whole lot of trees. So when you go play and there's a lot of wind, there's cooler temperatures, it really changes how you approach your game. And the interesting thing about over in like Ireland and Scotland is there's not a lot of driving ranges compared to the United States, especially the desert. Everyone's hitting balls in the desert and they're spending hours and hours on the driving range, which is an important part of playing good golf. Don't get me wrong, that's what I do for a living. But I stress playing equally as important as hitting balls and practicing a drill or working on your swing. So if you were to take, say, like a men's or ladies club from a club in Ireland, bring them over here and play on a neutral course with another men's and ladies group in like a little Ryder Cup event, amateur, I would put my money on the people coming from Scotland or Ireland, because they don't spend a whole lot of time typically on the range. They spend it playing golf, and they play in tough conditions, and it's about getting the ball in the hole. And so I think that's why it's really important to play a lot of golf. And so when you get over in a situation where you got to keep the ball low, or you have to putt from 30 yards off the green, you typically would never hit those shots over here. And those are the high percentage plays. I mean, I remember Todd Hamilton in the early 2000s, he was chipping his hybrid from like 50 yards off the green. And next thing you know, there were like sonar techs in everyone's golf bag, and they had no idea what they were doing with them. It's a very effective shot, an effective way to play those shots. And you have to play golf differently. So yeah, I can totally relate with what you're saying. I mean, just going to play golf on the coast, it's different. I played Marbella the other day, and it's tree lined up and down. It's completely different than Desert Willow. And there's a lot of holes you don't hit driver on. And I did hit them into the trees, so, and you just have to like psychologically get more comfortable playing those type of courses too, where you just don't, it doesn't, you just can't get up there and rip it.
When a student comes to you with a specific problem or request to work on ball control or ball flight, I guess two-part question, does that happen with some regularity? And if and when it does, what do you start working on with them first thing?
Yeah, so first thing you can do is look at your ball position. So if you want to hit a higher shot, move it one golf ball up of where you would normally play, which is, off your left eye, typically for the right-hander. So move it up a little bit. And then if you want to play it down, move it slightly back in your stance. And that's an easy way to control ball flight. You can, if you want to hit the ball lower and keep spin off the ball, use a little less loft. Using less loft is the easiest way to reduce spin on a shot typically. And then don't swing as hard. So if I want to keep the ball down low, I try to play it back in my stance, use less loft, and then not swing as hard. One of the things that I tell my students is, when in doubt, especially when it's really windy or you're just a little nervous with the shot, there's water up by the green, or it's just a little dicey, or on one of those holes, less club, ball back. And even if that means just take your 5-iron out and just hit it, 10 yards off the fairway up, just hit it real low and play that shot rather than rip one up into the wind. The next thing you know, it gets away from you and goes out of bounds. So you gotta practice that shot on the range.
I was going to say that one it really does require practice. And as you mentioned, some days in the desert here, the winds can pick up. We do have some windy conditions here in the desert. And I know that I've tried and ultimately failed. I've implemented the techniques that you said, but tried to do so with an abbreviated finish. Like I've had friends or playing partners call it like kind of a shotgun type finish.
Yeah.
That's one that requires practice, but do you like to see that kind of hold off on the finish as part of a lower trajectory shot?
So one of the things to keeping the ball low, you got to remember, is that yes, but if the amateur doesn't practice that, excuse me, and tries that, the last thing you want to do is decelerate your body, because as you do that, the club will catch up and you'll add loft. And that's typically what happens with a lot of players, is they try to hold off and slow down and they add loft. So you want to make sure you keep rotating through and keep that connection of your arms and the club going through impact. So you can practice that and try not to have the club head pass your hands too early. And that's typically what a lot of people do. If they hit a high ball, a lot of times they scoop and they release early. So it's difficult for them to play in the wind if they're a high spinner, high slicer. So yeah, you have to practice that. That's not something you can just break out on demand for the typical amateur golfer.
Something else that requires a lot of practice.
Yeah.
I think I practice most is some of the short game creativity. It's something we're going to see a lot of at the 150th playing of the Open Championship at St. Andrews this week. Paul, as I see it, and you mentioned the conditions, idyllic here in the desert, certainly in the peak season. And that just goes not for a fluffy fairway lie, but a lot of the greenside surrounds are cut intentionally short, as I see it, to give players a lot of options. It means that you might not necessarily go and grab your 60 every time. When I see a closely mown greenside surround, it says to me, okay, well, maybe I can putt this. Maybe I can grab an 8-iron shot. Or as we'll see this week, some of the best players in the world, they'll grab that hybrid and kind of use that as a putting stroke. What do you like to see players do when they're on the greenside surrounds, especially here in the desert, where it is intentionally manicured to give you options?
Yeah, so you always putt. You putt is your best option. I mean, if you take the typical amateur and you put a putter in their hand and put their 9-iron or their sandwich in their hands, their odds are going to be so much better to get it close on the first shot with a putter. The only challenge is if you're putting through high rough or 2 or 3 surfaces of grass to get to the green, then it's a little bit of a guessing game because you're probably not practicing that. And then you might get turf trapped between the face and the putter. But what I tell everyone, all my students, is when you can putt the ball, whether it's on the green or off the green, always put it first. And you'll see that a lot. Because it's just an easier play. There's no wrist hinge. You have to make a longer backswing, and you're keeping the ball on the ground. So it's the easiest shot to play in golf. So I would start there. The hybrid's an interesting choice because you got that wide sole, and it doesn't require a big swing because there's not a whole lot of loft. Pretty forgiving. It's not going to dig. That leading edge isn't going to catch typically, but you better practice that because the first one you hit, if you don't, it usually typically just takes off. And then, yes, yeah.
Friends are tuning in to episode 59 of the Spicer Speaking podcast. Paul Bucy, Director of Instruction at Desert Willow Golf Resort, the on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy. He is my guest. You can check it out online at desertwillow.com. Find out about the Mountain View Firecliff courses. Find out about instruction opportunities. Don't forget, prizing a complimentary foursome to Desert Willow Golf Resort. Can win that on the social media routes this week. That's at Spicer Speaking via Twitter or the Facebook accounts. Speaking of the social media accounts, I noticed, Paul, when I check out the Desert Willow, at least on the Twitter account, I trust this can be found via other mediums as well, a lot of new videos of you stretching.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's called Stick Mobility. And it's a new program that we started back last fall, and we love it. I integrated it into all our golf schools, run a class on Wednesdays, and we're growing the program. And it's a low impact stretching class that everyone can do. And we all can benefit from more mobility and stability in our golf swing. It's the sticks are great because they add this sense of resistance and some stability for you to hang on to while you're doing some of these stretches. And you can progressively make them more difficult and gain greater range of motion. And it's fun. So I really like it. And it's helped me personally a lot in my game. One thing that I personally struggle with is my thoracic spine doesn't have a lot of range of motion. Okay. So when I would make a big swing, I would tend to lose a little width in my swing. So it's really helped me make a bigger shoulder turn and keep the width in my golf swing, which helps me stay shallow on my downswing and just leads to better ball striking. And that's just one way, that it's helped. But it's a lot of fun. So we're going to continue to grow that program.
Is it particular muscles, particular tendons that you're either strengthening or elastizing in particular?
Yeah, so it's really just doing the motions, and it's getting you to and getting you the awareness of where you should be in your golf swing as we do the class. And then it really points out your limitations. So one of the things a lot of amateurs make is mistake in their golf game is they're trying to make golf swings based on what they see on TV or maybe what they've seen on the internet that their body physically can't do. So if you physically can't do it, how are you going to do it under pressure going to play, 18 holes of golf? You're not. So you know your limitations right away, and you say, okay, I got something long-term to work on. It's not a quick fix, but it really points out the things that you need to work on in terms of how much hip flexibility you have, spine, how your side bend is, your shoulders, your wrists, all kinds of things. And it's a nice 45-minute program that we take our students through. And it's really helpful.
Do you do that indoors at the Palm Desert Golf
So
Academy?
we do it outdoors. We do it
Okay.
out on the range, which is great in season. And
Okay.
then we do have a little area indoors that we'll do it out of season.
Okay.
And you can do it with a golf club too. So you don't necessarily need the sticks. The sticks are cool because they're really long, and you can get into some great positions. They really help you just gain that little extra bit. But you can do a lot of the stuff with your golf club, which is nice too.
This past season, I would say Paul had more visitors than ever before. Old pals or some colleagues that have said, "Oh, I always want to get to the desert," and a few of them have, maybe like once in the dozen years I've been out here. But a number of guys for the first time, and they're guys with some inherent talent. And what they almost always say to me, to a man, is like, "Gosh, I would love to get out on the course with a pro and have him or have her not just like take, a lesson with them, but have them more of an experiential time and kind of guide me through as
There's your little guy right there.
yeah." Archie has joined the Spicer Speaking podcast, as he is wont to do on occasion. Um, uh, and I know for you, this is something that we looked at doing last summer. I would still love to do is a playing lesson. I know that's something that's part of your menu, certainly at Palm Desert Golf Academy. What do you find that students, clients generally glean from an on-course playing lesson with you or one of the other folks at the Palm Desert Golf Academy?
Yeah, sure. So that's part of our golf schools is we'll go on the course, and that's been a huge hit. It's one of the things that changed years ago is to integrate that on course part, and it's one of the areas, quite frankly, that we're going to be growing at the academy because it's not always about your technique. I think it's one of the areas in terms of golf instruction that is under taught, only because of availability. Oftentimes, the things that are really frustrating golfers is their technique, and they're not able to hit the shots from a technique standpoint. But at the same time, you got to go play golf, and you got to get out there. So establishing a pre-shot routine, if you have one, what does it look like? What's your aim look like in your setup? Where's your ball position? How are you going through the 20 seconds before you even strike the ball? If you look at professionals, they have a pretty solid routine, and they're sticking to that routine on every hole, and they want to nail it. And it doesn't mean they're going to hit the shot perfect, but they can control that routine, and it sets them up for success, like a gymnast would or a diver would. And so it's part of the visualization and getting set up. So you can learn a lot there about establishing a good pre-shot routine. And then, a lot of people just select the club based on distance. And oftentimes, not often, it's always about your lie. What is your lie? What is the lie allowing you to hit? It's not about distance at all. It's about what can I swing to put a solid shot on, and how much can I kind of bite off here? And then what's up there, and making good decisions. And then learning a little bit more about your short game. And that's where we can introduce, hey, I know you use your pitching wedge all the time because you think you should pitch here, but modern day pitching wedges typically now are like 43 degrees. So oftentimes, if you're pitching with a pitching wedge to a pin that's downhill and away from you, you probably need a little more loft. And vice versa. If you're using your 60 all the time, but now all of a sudden you're hitting to a pin that's uphill and it's back, maybe you need to run it a little bit and use a little less loft. So it's very valuable, and it is one area that we're really going to expand. We are extremely busy at Desert Willow, so we do have some time to go out on the golf course, and you don't want to be rushed when you give playing lessons. So we're going to be really focusing on later in the afternoon, where we're going to take groups of people out, and we're just going to play, and we're going to methodically just kind of talk through it. So it's a lot of fun. We play scrambles with our students a lot too, so it gives us the opportunity to hit some shots with them and talk through them before we hit them. So I think there's a lot of value in it, a lot. It's under taught, and there's a ton of value there.
I'll mention lastly that one of the reasons Desert Willow stays active for all seasons is during the summer, the summer VIP card, which regular listeners know I have mentioned since it came into effect last month. It's a great deal, man. You see a lot of your students, see clients and folks taking advantage of the summer VIP card.
Absolutely, we have a ton of members. The courses are in great shape, and it's really a good way to become a member of our Desert Willow family. And it's one of the many programs we offer. And you you join the program, you get reduced green fees, you get some discounts on instruction and discounts in the pro shop. So it's just another way to experience Desert Willow. And like I said, the courses are in good shape. We got through the transition and the greens are looking good and courses looking great. So, come on out, come early. You can come later. You have the whole course to yourself. Just bring a ton of water and get ready for the heat. But the mornings are beautiful out there. I mean, you get out early. I love playing first out this time of year. And by the time you're done, 10, 11, 12, it's still under 100 degrees. So it's great.
I fit in one more, I guess, for you, Paul. Kind of round it back full circle. Anybody in particular that you would like to see win the Open Championship this week?
So, it's good. What would be cool, I think, would be like Padraig Harrington, if he could compete. He just won the U.S. Senior Open. He's 50. He's a 2-time Open champion. It's been a little while, but I think that would be cool. I think it would be good for golf with everything that's going on right now with Rory being right there. I think he's a great spokesman for the game of golf, and I really like Rory. And I think that would be cool to see him at the top of the leaderboard. Justin Thomas would be another great pick. And of course, if Tiger can contend and get there, that'll be a lot of fun. But it will definitely be an interesting Open with everything that's going on in the world of golf and the Live Golf Tour and there's just so much talent that it's really hard to say, oh, this is the clear winner this week, because there's so many guys that can win. And it's an amazing venue too, and it's 150. It's the 150th Open.
Certainly
awesome.
Looking forward to watching that, just as I look forward to my return visit to go see Paul Busey at the Palm Desert Golf Academy. Just a little checkup to see how I'm doing with that swing, man. But I'll bug you before the summer is out. You can nudge Paul as well, again, visiting Palm Desert Golf Academy. Get your tee times as well at Desert Willow Golf Resort at desertwillow.com. Great to reconnect, my friend. It has been a spell. Appreciate you joining the Spicer Speaking podcast.
Yeah, Judd, thank you so much. It's great. We'll see you soon.
See you soon, bud.
All right.